Clay, what do you got going on today? I asked you last week if you did all your shopping, so I don't think I have to ask that again.
No, I just did one last thing that my wife has requested to do, and I've gotten the stuff already that I'm cooking for Christmas meal. I've got 2 chickens and a ham and some ribs. Ribs are just appetizers. I cook the ribs over the chickens. The ribs kind of baste the chicken in the smoker.
Ooh, I like that.
I got my system.
I like how that sounds, man. That's no want for waste. Exactly right. How many people are coming over? You got a big crew? Sounds like a lot of food. I think
there'll be it's just the immediate family. Both daughters, one daughter's married, so that's it. There'll be 5 of us.
Okay.
We had 8 for Thanksgiving. We had the Gage family joined us and from Colorado, but this will just be immediate family, and we'll go to a Christmas Eve service on Friday evening, and then we'll have probably a late dinner or lunch, like 2 o'clock, 2:30, something like that.
Well, sounds like a good holiday.
Yeah,
man.
The other thing that I do on Christmas morning is I make apple pancakes.
You got traditions here. I mean, you've got.
Yes.
This sounds like the kind of stuff you've been doing for a long time.
Yeah, the apple pancakes are like crepes. You just slice up some fine tart apples, thinly sliced, and then you make your batter really a lot thinner, so it's crepes. And you put a few butter patties on the apple pancakes and sprinkle sugar and cinnamon on top, and it kind of caramelizes.
I'm going to need to do that. I'm going to try to do that for my kids who I have with me.
It's
for
not
the next
hard.
Few days.
It's not hard.
Well,
it's like dessert though, Phil.
The only thing that's difficult is convincing them to eat breakfast. For some reason, there's kids who don't eat breakfast too often.
I do that as people are opening their presents, and I just hand them a plate, and they'll eat it, and then they'll hand me the plate back. They don't, you open presents in shifts. Like there'll be a little while Jean Ann opens presents, and everybody wants her to open the present they got her, and I usually just kind of open mine when everybody's done.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into
sports.
Let's get into some sports. I was feeling we don't want to get into basketball or football. You still have a week before, a little more than a week and a half until the Outback Bowl. Arkansas basketball stops the little slide yesterday with it's a blowout win over a team that I think fans, when they looked at the team's record and Elon and the final scores from some of the other big programs they played, you kind of hope that they would blow them out, and that's exactly what happened. But I kind of wonder. There's similarities in the record from Arkansas this year to last year at the same time. Similarities, and you're sort of waiting to see what the rest of the rotation is going to look like, who's going to step into certain roles. But I still sense, Clay, there isn't maybe quite the same optimism amongst the Arkansas fan base that I remember feeling last year of what you might see in the SEC schedule. Are you sensing the same thing?
Well, here's the one thing to kind of keep in mind. I do not think this on the men's side. I do not think that this is a strong 14-team SEC. I think there's 2 or 3 teams, and Arkansas is one of them that could excel if they put all the pieces together. But then there's a bunch of them that I don't see that. There's a lot of teams struggling, and I thought that's what it was going to be. There's all this talk about how great the SEC is, and I think, there's potential with a lot of these coaches, but there's been a lot of turnover in the league from last year to this year, and I just don't see that you got to play better than you've been playing, but they've got a chance to win a lot of SEC games, and you saw, I don't just go down the list, and there's 3 or 4 teams, and then there's about 8 or 9 that you have a chance to go on the road and win some of those games. I'm not saying you're going to win them all, and you just got to hold serve at home. Alabama, they showed they're not invincible. Dartmouth's a good team, but it's the. Ole Miss stunk it up last night, and there's been some others do the same thing. And Kentucky's been, they've been up and down. But the thing that had concerned me most about this Arkansas team is I didn't see a three-point shooter. Well, that's starting to emerge. I think Jackson Robinson is terrific. And he's got to show toughness, which I thought he did, so he can stay on the floor defensively. Because you don't play on this team without playing defense. And their post defense on the pick and roll with Wade and Johnson was terrific last night. That's, you make a 17-0 run, the first thing is, well, you got to have the zero, right?
Yeah.
You got to have the zero. You got to play defense. And they were giving up so many layups on the pick and roll, and Jalen Williams was not playing well. And I didn't see him stop the ball much with their wing players, and that was better last night. Now, that's Elon. Maybe it is just Elon. But I have a little more hope with watching, some of the defensive players in the perimeter last night, and with the way Jackson Robinson. Now, he's got the pure stroke, guys, and you can slide a little bit with other problems with the guy that can shoot it. I mean, Scotty Thurman wasn't covering anybody like a glove as a true freshman. But, boy, he was hitting shots. You just get the rebounds that come to you. You don't have to go chase them down, and you make shots. I think Jackson Robinson is that kind of player.
Yeah, hopefully he can be that type of guy for you long-term this season, Clay. And one thing that's kind of weird, not really, I guess, in today's basketball, it's just something that really catches your eye. And I want to get your opinion on how big of a deal is it that next week against Mississippi State will be the Arkansas's first true road game. They really haven't had to experience an unfriendly crowd yet.
Yeah, that's part of it, and it's it will. A lot of these guys have played road games, in Division I. So I don't think that's the scary part. Is maybe, you've got a whole bunch of true freshmen that have never been on the road. So I suspect that they'll handle it okay, but the schedule is what it is, and you have to play home games when you're at Arkansas, and you're trying to make sure that you're using those season ticket sales. I mean, they sold a lot. They made a lot of money with basketball season ticket sales, and they do that at Arkansas, which means you play home games. So, yeah, I mean, I like to see them at least go on the road once, and they didn't do that. But going to Kansas City and going to Tulsa, the Tulsa thing, close, not all together, but, as far as being a road test. But you saw that, a huge number of fans were, cheering for the other red team that night. So, that probably served them well as being close to a road test.
All right, we got another segment with Clay coming up in just a moment. Want to remind you, Wave Rural Connect is live in the Clarksville zone, covering areas south of, areas north and west of Clarksville, Ozone, Oark, Lake Ludwig, Harmony, Mount Vernon, and areas in between. And if you've had it with terrible overpriced internet in your rural area and are a member of Arkansas Valley Electric Cooperative, Wave Rural Connect is the best choice for fastest internet. Just under $50 per month. That's right. Call them at 833-4WAVE-RC or online at signup.waveruralconnect.com. Arkansas Valley Electric and Wave Rural Connect, changing the communities that we serve. You can text in any questions about Clay. We're going to get into more of the Outback Bowl, Arkansas Penn State, 877-377-6963, and we'll be right back. 10 days until the Outback Bowl in Tampa. And they're getting that field ready tomorrow because the Gasparilla Bowl is at the same place, and that's tomorrow night. And let's talk more about the Outback Bowl than the one that's played tomorrow between UCF and Florida, because it's a better game, Arkansas Penn State. Clay, we got word about the Trey Williams opt-out Sunday, his arrest on Saturday, and obviously these two things go together. Is there enough depth at defensive end to cover that loss from Trey Williams against Penn State? Now, this is not a big passing team, but is this something that Arkansas can cover?
Yeah, they're going to play. They probably will move Eric Gregory out, and he played a lot of inside at tackle. They'll move him out some, and they've got guys. Do they have a pass rusher? that matches him. Now they'll pass it. Penn State does throw it, and they don't have anybody that's quite as accomplished as Trey Williams. And I think that's where this team needs help. So that's a loss. Penn State has got the same type deal where they're losing players, and I think they're going to lose a significant number, and we don't really have that number yet because they're not. James Franklin is like, the only way is if a player announces it, because they're not going to announce it. And the two inside linebackers are out. There's some thought that they're going to lose their receiver who's if he's not the equal of Treylon Burks, he's at least in the same category. He's terrific. He's an all-conference player and in a good league. They may lose a defensive end. They may lose a safety. So we may not find out any of that until 2 or 3 days before a bowl game.
I think I meant to say that Penn State is not much of a running team. They average just over 100 yards per game. They're 118th in rushing. But, yeah, Clifford to Dotson, they are a team that will throw it.
They're going to throw.
I just misspoke.
Yeah, they're not an offensive juggernaut.
Right.
They're not afraid to punt the ball and turn it over to the defense. That's the kind of, games they played all year where they're going to punt it 8 or 9 times and you're going to punt it 8 or 9 times.
Sounds like a field position game, Clay. And
I think it is.
Really haven't been a lot of those for Arkansas this year. I mean, You could look at the way the Georgia game started and say, well, that was field position when it mattered, but you really haven't had a lot of games where it's just based upon the position where you're starting. Thought that was a big problem for Arkansas last year, but not so much this year.
Yeah, and I think turnovers, kicking game, all of that's going to be, if you can get the short field a couple of times, that's probably the difference in the game.
Clay, what outside of the game that's coming up here in about a week and a half, what was your thoughts on the Jalen St. John news of basically entering the portal one day, then actually having a conversation with Coach Pittman, and then taking his name out and staying? He's going to stay.
Yeah, I think we know that Sam said basically entering the portal is I'm done with you. But rules are made to be broken, just like records. Mm-hmm. And you have to be, I think a smart coach is flexible, and you have to. So I didn't have a chance to talk to him. He put his name in. All right, here's where you fit in our plans. Oh, I didn't know that. I've been watching Devin Manuel get reps, the last 10 days. I mean, I don't know how that conversation went, but it's sometimes, you get too much information from somebody that's in your camp and don't get enough information from your coach, and things, all at once they've been exaggerated or expanded, and you're like, I didn't mean to do that. I think with young players, you should be flexible. A senior or whatever, it's like, hey, where you're in our plans, you're playing, and you do that. Well, I think that's the ones that you think, go ahead and get your stuff out of here.
That was the thing about his announcement that just felt so odd. If you paid attention, you're like, well, it seems this kid is in the team's plans. Like you have a need for a left tackle next year. I think he's going to compete for that position, and he might be an injury away from, being a guy who's a starter on the offensive line.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that it's just tough sometimes when you're not playing, and I've heard it forever and ever. You talk to somebody at home and they're like, you should be playing. Well, I mean, where? These are all older guys. Mm-hmm. And offensive linemen, they're better when they're 21 and 22 than they are when they're 18 and 19. And the play quick deal in the offensive line is I think it doesn't happen that often. There's not a lot of Sean Andrews that can play early as offensive lineman. It just takes time. It takes knowledge. It takes experience. It takes physical maturity. And he's a guy that's had to lose weight. He's had to get used to a new weight, and I think that's probably still going on. And he's also learning this system, which is unique, and that you got to play fast in the offensive line.
Other news this week coming out of bowl preparation, obviously the Renfro news of his ACL tear, and how big of a concern should people really look into that, as far as 2022 goes? And I know you got KJ and Malik obviously coming back as your 1-2 guy, but injuries do happen. Is it a possibility that they shop around for maybe a grad assistant type of guy that we saw at South Carolina this year, a guy that would like to just have one more year of eligibility, really doesn't care if he plays, but is there just in case?
Yeah, you got Lucas Coley. And Lucas, I was interested. I went to practice yesterday, and he has really progressed. We haven't seen him. There hasn't been a lot of talk about him. It was all the infatuation with Hornsby, but I think Coley benefited from a redshirt year, and I think he's had good practices, and he's a run pass guy. He's bigger than Hornsby, and I think that's really solid depth as a number 3. You also have got Landon Rogers, who's playing tight end, that probably you'd say, all right, can we give him some reps in the spring at quarterback just so we know we got a 4th guy, if you get a couple of injuries. And as I covered a game when Arkansas went through 3 quarterbacks in a quarter. That was at South Carolina. And I was trying to remember, all the guys. Zach Clark, I think, got hurt. I think Jared McBride, and there was one more, and I'm going blank on. But they went through 3, and so you know that it can happen. But yeah, that's something to explore, and it has to be the right guy. It also has to be a guy that, okay, I can be 4th. There's not very many that will agree to do that, right?
Yeah, not a lot signing up to be the 4th man on the roster.
Everybody, I think you're talking. What happened at South Carolina, I think, is a unique and probably seldom found deal. Like, I don't really care if I'm going to play. I really want to be a coach, but if I have to play, I can do that. That's that would be finding a Rhett Lashley, so to speak.
Yeah.
A guy that's just going to hold the clipboard unless we get desperate.
I'm really looking forward to seeing this stadium. I've never been to I know it's not called the Sombrero anymore, but you can't help but think about it. Raymond James Stadium, Super Bowls, national championship games have been played there. It's a new stadium to go look at. It's supposed to have one of the best playing surfaces in the entire country. I kind of wonder, though, Penn State's known for traveling really well for bowl games.
Oh, they do.
How do you expect the Arkansas fan base to show out? Because I think people are pretty excited to play in a Florida Bowl.
Oh, I think there'll be good representation from Arkansas. And I'll tell you, if you lived in Pennsylvania, you'd travel.
Yeah, it's pretty
I'm
cold
making
up there.
fun of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
I know what it's like.
Phil's from Pittsburgh.
You
so
realize
ha.
Now, you realize, Clay, I grew up a Pitt fan. I'm still a Pitt fan. I do not hold any positive thoughts for Penn State, and that was before the whole Jerry Sandusky thing. I've never really felt great about Penn State. This bowl matchup fits perfectly right in my heart.
So this is a fun story. So I went to State College twice in the last 5 years and spent a week. Actually was in a cafe, a street-side cafe, and James Franklin walked by, and the waiter says, that guy writes for an SEC school, and he sat down with my wife and I for a little while. But the fly fishing guide was driving me across that county, and we passed the prison, and he goes, that's where Sandusky is. And that's kind of weird.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, but you listen to those people talk about Joe Paterno and Penn State football and everything, and it's like you realize they're gonna support this team. It is a unique place, and you got pro sports on either side, but that central area in the Nittany Mountains, it is crazy. Penn State.
Yeah, and I've only been to State College once. I had a lot of friends that went to school there. So went to visit them one time. Never made it to a football game, but that would definitely be one thing I'd like to see, a game at Beaver Stadium. But first, I'd like to see them lose to Arkansas.
That stadium
number one.
Is on a hill, and it goes straight up, like 3 decks. It is unbelievable. It's like
it's a mountain.
it just sits there. And I would say the mountains around there, the Nittany Mountains, it would remind you of driving through the river valley and seeing Mount Magazine and Mount Nebo on both sides of you. That's what it looks like. In State College.
It's going to be a lot of fun when we get to it, and I know you're traveling next week, so I'm not sure if we'll have you or not, but Clay wants you to have
we'll
a very
call in and
Merry Christmas.
Yep, same to you guys. I'll call in from
Online
some.
has you covered for all the holiday season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all sports action. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV to receive your bonus. And it's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports.